Hello, Country Time Barbie. Hello, Scott Hummer, and hello, amazing Grandma. Welcome you all to the Tuesday night book club. This is the nonfiction book club, so we're looking at things that we can do to be prepared for whatever is going to happen. We are reading the book by Ted Riley, and that is When Crisis Hits Suburbia. Tonight we're going to be doing chapters 5 and 6. So if you haven't read it, it'll be down in the notes down below. I strongly recommend you get a copy and keep it in your library. Another one of those great books that, and there are a plethora of great books out there, and each one has its own individual strong points. And so I recommend, getting several different ideas, several different opinions. And as a matter of fact, we'll even talk about this a little bit more tomorrow night during the live. So our Wednesday night live is going to be 20 things preppers should not do. And I'm going to be talking about some of the things I've seen that are mistakes over the course of the last several years. Hello, Triple G Farms and Diana too. Welcome. So a couple of very interesting topics tonight in chapters 5 and 6. Chapter 5 is basically medical information, first aid, medical type of stuff. And then chapter 6 is defense. It's going to be, both of those are just topics that I absolutely love. So to keep me quiet, and I could probably talk a couple hours on each one. Not necessarily knowledgeable talking, but I could talk. So anyhow, let's just be thankful that we are here today. I mean, gosh, the news, all the stuff that's going on. Thank you, Scott, for starting to post those links. I greatly appreciate it. Hello, Holly. And gosh, the news that's coming out about the FBI and the Durham report and everything else, I am beginning to get concerned that at some point my fellow citizens are going to get upset with the amount of shenanigans that are going on in D.C., what has been termed as the cockroach area, and that things are going to get nasty. But gosh, it's crazy. It is super crazy. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. What can you do to defend yourself and protect yourself as we get into chapter 6? And then, of course, we have Triple G Farms here tonight. He's going to keep me straight as far as some of my medical stuff I'll be saying and information about that. Indiana Hoosier, I wish she was here. She's a registered nurse. She keeps me straight as well. We'll see what happens here. Let's go ahead and get into this book, chapter 5, which is essential medicines, or essential number 3, medicine and medical stuff. So it recommends on page 69, it has a list of what you should have for your first aid kit and your medical kit, and that goes on for a page or two. Let me tell you, I believe very strongly in the Israeli compression bandages. And okay, you aren't going to keep me straight, huh? I strongly recommend the Israeli compression bandages. In my opinion, it's one of the best things to come as far as first aid kit for an individual first aid kit for the military or for anybody else in that kind of a situation. I also think that you can get a good tourniquet. It just depends upon the level of SHTF as to whether or not we want to put a tourniquet on or not. Make sure you get some sterile bandages. Make sure that you have some tape. Please make sure you have some topical or a skin wash or a sterile saline solution to wash the wound. Make sure that you have some topical antibiotics. So you can see that Chihuahua's got me again. And so thank God I've got a little bit of topical antibiotic on there to keep that from spreading. And hopefully I'll keep that contained. Wash it, with warm water and good soap. Make sure you keep a great supply of soap available. That's one of the most essential things you're going to have in your first aid kit, is just keeping controlling bacteria, controlling dirt, controlling germs is going to be number one critical essential thing that you can do. They talk about styptic powder. That can be anything that is a blood clotting agent. So, there's Celox and other forms of clotting agents that you can use. Just beware anything other than the styptic powder or styptic. I guess you would call it an ointment that comes in a styptic stick. It's a very thick, almost like a Vaseline type of a thing, and a dry Vaseline, almost like a paraffin, almost like that. There we go, almost like a paraffin. And both of those are blood clotting agents. They don't burn as much as Celox. Man, I tell you, Celox burns. So make sure that you have all that available to you. Make sure you have splints, ace bandages. Ace bandages, let me tell you, the most valuable first aid item you can have in your kit is to have at least a dozen triangular bandages. Triangular bandages can be used for slings, for headdresses, to hold on dressings. They can use to basically splint a sprained ankle all by themselves. You don't need anything else. Hello, Rainey. Rainey Harvath, welcome. So there's a lot of things that you can do with triangular bandages all by themselves, and that's another outstanding piece of first aid gear. Triple G says that he carries 2 tourniquets with him at all times, especially after let me see what's going on here, especially after the Boston Marathon bombing. Yes, you don't know what's going on. I am scared. I am really afraid of all these people who are coming across our southern border that we have not vetted. They caught another person who was on the terrorist watch list yesterday crossing the border. I believe it was in the El Paso sector. And, then we see all these busloads of Chinese military-age men all by themselves, not dressed to where they were ragged crossing the border, crossing over miles and miles of desert, but rather, they rode in an air-conditioned bus and have brand new shoes. That scares the living daylights out of me. Be prepared. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we get into chapter 6. So yes, so Triple G agrees, triangular bandages. So you have a bad problem with your fingers cracking. So that's dry skin. So I would say any kind of a good hand lotion. I have the same problem. I have some steroid cream that I can only use 3 times a week. And I use that on my hands and I use it on my legs. But that's a medical condition. I don't know if you can get the prescription steroid creams. But then, there's a fantastic, I think it's Gold Bond, makes a fantastic foot cream for dry feet, big cracked feet. I don't know if it's going to work on your fingers. I know it works on my feet. But if you have the dry heels and everything else, it works fantastic on them. Try it. I would hate to think that your hands might smell like your feet, but, you can give that a try. Let me see. So some of the diseases that Rainey brings up, absolutely. I'm afraid of cholera, typhoid, typhus, everything else, and that's why I affiliated with Contingency Medical and with Jase Medical, both. I tell you, you've got to have plenty of antibiotics, both topical as well as oral medications available to you. I think it's going to be critical. I think especially with the lack of sanitation that's going to happen after any kind of a grid down scenario, where you can be as clean as you want, but if your next door neighbors aren't, then you're going to have infection in your area, and that's going to be bacteriological and viral, and you've just got to be able to take care of that. So my source was, I bought a dozen white triangular bandages on Amazon, and it was like $8. And that's what I have. I've got a dozen triangular bandages I got from Amazon. I'll put those in the show notes. Show notes. There we go. Get my mouth to working. There's a great suggestion. Working hands cream. Yes, I forgot about the creams for the people who work with their hands and they get rather chafed. Dave Simmons says he uses Cornhuskers lotion. I like that. Don't live in fear and don't put on a fear suit. Just be the one in the valley that people do fear. I hope I can be. So triangular bandage, basically a Boy Scout scarf. So you can use it to tie around your head as a bandana. Just think of it as a bandana. In most first aid books, it shows you how you can wrap it around your ankle for a sprained ankle. You can use it to make a sling. There are so many different uses for the triangular bandage. It's just unbelievable. The good first aid book's going to give you all kinds of different uses for a triangular bandage. Country Time Barbie says that she makes hers from fabric. Absolutely. I think that it's an 18 by 18 square, and then you just fold it one corner to the other, and that makes it into a triangle. You could either cut that in half or leave it as is, either one. Check into getting some good rubber gloves, because I know it's ironic, but having your hands in water all the time cracks them up and dries them out. That's kind of ironic, but yeah. Check into getting some good gloves. Burn ointment. Make sure you have plenty of burn ointment. I personally believe that when SHTF happens, we're going to have a lot more accidents than we are shootings. That's my personal belief. And so what I did was I said, okay, what are the accidents that are most commonly occurring when a family goes out camping or hiking? And I believe those are probably going to be the same things, so you have people who are starting fires that don't do fires that much inside the city limits. You've got sprains, strains, breaks, people hacking into their feet with hatchets or axes when they're chopping wood, slips with knives because you don't know how to use a knife, et cetera, et cetera. So, cuts, breaks, strains, heat injuries, cold injuries, burns, going to be terrible. So I don't know if you know this, Country Time Barbie, but I'm originally from El Paso. Went to Blessed Sacrament School for elementary through middle school, then Jesuit high school until it went bankrupt, and then I moved over to Burgess High School. So I graduated from Burgess High School in the Milagro Hills area. I grew up on the corner of Hawkins and Turrentine, 8708 Turrentine, El Paso, Texas, 79925. Prospect 87571, area code 915. Yeah, I'm of that age where we used the letters. So instead of 778, we said Prospect 8. Let me see. Where are we here? Foot Miracle is great for skin, for cracked skin. So yeah, and I use, and thank you for joining in there, Churn-Farm. Welcome. So I use Gold Bond, which is basically the same thing. Yes, and a dull knife, a dull axe, a dull hatchet, any cutting instrument that is dull is more dangerous than a sharp one. So here's the thing about the fish antibiotics. Starting June 1st, you've only got 2 weeks left. So if you're going to get them now. As of June 1st, there's a new law that in order to get fish antibiotics, which according to Dr. Alton of Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, he says that it's basically the same thing. If you want to get those fish antibiotics as of June 1st, you have to have a prescription from a veterinarian that there is a medical need for an animal in order to get those. So if you want to get those now. Otherwise, if you get with either Contingency Medical or with Jase Medical, they will put you through a discussion with a physician so that you make sure you're getting the right antibiotics for your needs in the future. I'm allergic to azithromycin, so they usually have to exchange out azithromycin for doxycycline. And so I get a little bit more doxycycline than I do, and I don't get any azithromycin. Yes, plain first aid cream. I don't know. I will take your word for it. That's a great suggestion. I have not tried that, but it's definitely worth worth an attempt. Um, Jase and here's the thing with what I do like about Contingency is it got three different price points. So Jase only has one price point and Contingency has three. They basically have the same contents. Uh, I will say that I like the instruction booklet in Jase a lot better than I do Contingency Medicals. Although Contingency Medical gives you a lot of other things, descriptors as far as using their medications than does um, Jase. So, each one has their advantages. If you forced me to say which one I like better, uh, I don't know if I'd be able to. I would, okay, I would probably say Contingency only because if you are strapped for money and absolutely need a bare essentials regimen of antibiotics, I would say that you're probably going to get a better price point break with Contingency. There you go. How's that? Okay, so Rainey says that the Patriot Nurse agrees that it's the same thing. Just Little Lone Prepper. No, welcome. Hi. No, you don't have to FaceTime either. Jase does it over the phone, and Contingency Medical, you fill out a form, and then if they have questions, they call you. So you submit the form online, and then if they have any questions, they call you. Yes. Thank you. Fantastic observation. Yes. If you belong to either a flex spending account or a health savings account, in conjunction with your medical plan at work, if you have either one of those, you can get into it right now. Let me tell you, that's the best thing. When I was an HR director, I used to promote, putting a little bit into your HSA or FSA, either one, because you could get basically interest-free loans, because you can, once the year starts, you get the full amount for that year on your HSA or FSA immediately available to you for spending. And then you have to just keep up the deposits into that. Now, if you leave work early, you got to pay it off, but you get basically a interest-free loan on anything you buy with your HSA or FSA. Best thing in insurance that there is out there. Make sure you're participating in your HSA or FSA with your account. Country Time Barbie says, make sure you have wrist braces. I will go a step further. I like SAM splints. So a SAM splint is basically flexible aluminum with a little bit of, what's that called? It's the rubbery thing, styrofoam on either side. Then you can wrap it around. You can use it anywhere. You can use it for a leg. You can use it for a neck brace. You can use it for a hand, elbow, radius, or ulna. You can use it anywhere on the body, and it will conform to the body. And then once you kind of bend it just a little bit, so you make a little bit of a trough with it, then that makes it to where it's not going to bend, and it becomes a very, very stable splint. And I strongly recommend that. Yeah, there are good doctors out there, and there are good doctors out there. And let me tell you, my doctor, on the other hand, he and I had that discussion, and I told him I was well suited. I was well set, so I don't need that much more. Triple G, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just, as a matter of fact, I went at our men's prayer group this morning. I found out that there is a group here in the greater Austin area, especially in Round Rock, and it's run by Catholic Charities, and it's a free dental and medical clinic for people who are underinsured or uninsured but are working, the working poor. And you can sponsor basically a patient for $300 a year, or $25 a month. And so I went to my group this morning thinking that maybe I could get all of them to put in $2 each. Out of the 12 of us, if we put in $2 each, I'll put in $3. Then we could sponsor somebody. Well, three of the people there went ahead and just right during the meeting, bang, 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 $300 to sponsor a person for the year right there at the meeting. I was, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I was so thankful what they did. So that basically, that's kind of what we'll be doing with that Triple G. Just to let you know, we support the county food bank. We support a Catholic charity called St. Vincent de Paul, of which I am a member, and we go out and help people in need of financial services. And then, of course, I also support this clinic. So, just some of those things that I use your great money and great donations for. Thank you so much for that. Remember that if you have not taken care of the sheep, the shepherd will not allow you into his pasture. So that's something we all have to remember. So make sure you get splints. I strongly recommend Sam splints, Ace wraps. I like the new, what's it called? Keflex, that sticks to itself bandage. That's a fantastic thing. I haven't seen anybody that's allergic to it yet. It says get some essential oils. I'm not that big of an expert. Oh, Triple G Farms, thank you so much. He just sponsored a person for an entire year. Wow. I could almost cry. Thank you. That helps. That helps immensely. It doesn't help a little bit. That helps a lot. You would not believe. We helped a neighbor. That's what we call people who need help. Just the other day, she's a waitress at a good restaurant here in town, and she came down with COVID, and so she doesn't have health care, so she's got all of her hospital bills from COVID that we were helping her with. But because she didn't have that income for 2 weeks, she couldn't pay her rent either. So that's the kind of people that we like to help, the people who are trying to do something for themselves, but they're just underemployed. So, gosh, I've got tears in my eyes. I don't know if you can see it or not. Thank you so much. May the Lord bless you. That's all I can say. Gosh, thank you. Let me see. I got to see if I can see here. So over-the-counter medications, make sure you get some acetaminophen, aspirin, anti-inflammatory medications, antidiarrheals. Let me tell you, I am afraid of diarrhea. I am, that's going to be one of those things that we have to make sure that you have plenty of electrolyte replacement fluids. Make sure you have plenty of good fluids. Keep some powdered Gatorade. Keep some powdered IV. What's that one called? There are a couple of them. Drip Drop is one of them. IV Hydrate, I believe, is the other one. But there's a lot of fantastic electrolyte. Pedialyte has an adult version, and they come in powder form, so you can mix them with your existing good water and use that to replace all the fluids that a person dehydrates from when they have diarrhea. So make sure you take care of that. Make sure you also have the bedding. You don't want to put a person with diarrhea directly. Liquid IV. Thank you, James Carroll. That's what I'm looking for. Put a plastic sheet underneath of them so that it doesn't soak into the bedding, and you can clean that off. Make sure you have plenty of gloves so that you don't catch whatever they have while you're handling them. You're going to need all kinds of sanitation stuff. If you get Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy's book, there's two of them. There's one on how to operate during a pandemic. There's another one on infectious diseases and antibiotics. Get both of those. There are at the end, there's appendices that tell you all the stuff you need to basically run a clinic in your home to take care of somebody who has a disease, or especially diarrhea, dehydration, and how to handle those things effectively. So I strongly recommend that. Gosh, Triple G, you've got me to where I almost can't talk. Oh, gosh, thank you so much. I don't do this often. I think this is important. You don't realize what this means to me. I'm going to read from James, the second chapter of James, verses 12 through 24. I don't get into religion very often, and I apologize. But we had our meeting last night. One of the religious groups I belong to, and I said, when I was a young man, this is what drove me to believe what I currently believe. And so this is the driver. If you want to know what drives Lee, what makes me wake up in the morning and be thankful that I have another day, to be thankful that there are people like you out there, this is it. And it says, so speak and so act as people who will be judged by the law of freedom, for the judgment is merciless to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but doesn't have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister has nothing to wear and has no food for the day, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm, and eat well, but you do not give him those things which are needed, what good is it? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead, being alone. Indeed, someone may ask, you have faith and I have works. Demonstrate your faith to me without works, and I will demonstrate my faith to you by my works. You believe that God is one, you do well. Even the demons believe that and tremble. Do you want proof, you ignorant fool, that faith without works is useless? Was not Abraham only sanctified when he offered his son Isaac upon the altar of God? You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. Thus the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called the friend of God. So faith without works is dead, being alone. So basically what you've done is you've given me the works to help my fellow man. And as this guy here, I don't know how many, if you see, which way, this guy right here, this is St. Francis of Assisi, and he watches over me because the nuns who taught me from kindergarten through the 8th grade were Franciscan nuns. And so I understand a lot of the Franciscan stuff. And St. Francis of Assisi said, remember, when you walk out into the world, you are the only Bible some people will ever be able to read. So that means we have to act the way that we believe. And so I just read you basically my main belief. So that's kind of where I am. David Lynn, hello, welcome. You caught me in a teary-eyed moment. And I'm getting emotional and religious. So I apologize, but gosh, what a fantastic day. Thank you, Triple G. Just what a fantastic day. Thank you, Lord. Make sure you get your teeth taken care of ahead of time. You don't want to, that's a wrong time to come down with bad teeth or having to have one pulled or having to have a cavity filled. Make sure you have plenty of toothpaste and baking soda. You can go to the dollar store, and I don't know, it's probably $1.25 now, but it was $1. You can get a little travel dental kit. And it was a toothbrush, some floss, and some toothpaste for $1 in a little zipper pouch. I probably have 50 to 100 of those, but these aren't my teeth anymore. I had all my teeth pulled, and then they drilled in 8 posts, and they had these porcelain teeth that are screwed into my jaw now. So, but I still have to floss, not floss, but brush and gargle and water pick every day. So my teeth can't go bad. I can break them, but I doubt that that's going to happen. But, y'all can make sure you get your dental taken care of as well. So let me see. Make sure you have your everyday first aid kit. Then it gives the recommendations on different books. Doomsday Book of Medicine, Alton's Antibiotics, Preppers First, Survival Medicine Handbook, which is Dr. Alton and his wife, Amy. Then there's the Pandemic book. So the key chapter highlights, make sure you invest your time to create a high-quality first aid kit that is tailored to your needs. Make it part of your larger first aid kit cache, full of items that you and your family might need in a disaster. Make sure you keep good first aid kit in your car, your backpack, your vacation home, etc. Consider SHTF Dental in your medical plans and invest in an SHTF first aid library. I'm going to add one more to it. Get any first aid training you can get at any time and almost at any price. I think that's going to be critical. Okay. David Lent, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, David, we were looking forward to David going over 900, and we've been promoting his channel, and he is now over 1,000. And so he's going to be doing a giveaway. Now, the way he runs his giveaways is he keeps a list of who all comments on his videos. So in order to be eligible for one of his giveaways, you must have commented on the previous 5 videos in order to be included as a participant in his giveaway. I will probably be giving away a whole bunch of stuff for my 5,000 mark here in the very, very near future. I've got some good stuff too. One of them is going to be the entire 6-volume set of Stephen Smith's The Stonemont series. So that'll be great. Yes, CPR does have some, American Red Cross does have some fantastic training, just great stuff. So does the American Heart Association. If you have a CERT, CERT, Community Emergency Response Team in your area, volunteer. That's basically the local FEMA disaster recovery type stuff, and you're going to get all kinds of outstanding first aid training, rescue training, all kinds of great training. You get free equipment too. Hey, Roaming Prepper Pete, welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, I saw it starting, but unfortunately I needed to review this chapter and get ready for this discussion this evening. Okay, essential number 4, which is paragraph number 6, and it's called security. So I want to go back to the back first and do his chapter concepts, because he talks a couple things I think it's critical you understand. Wow, that's phenomenal. That's great. So he talks about understand the 3 Ds of security. So deter, detect, and defend. So how can you deter people from coming towards your home? Well, there are various things. You can put up a sign that says that, you know, you're sequestered or quarantined or whatever infectious disease. People might not want to come in because of that. You can scatter things around your front yard to make it look like your home has already been looted. There are all kinds of different things that you can do that is going to make the other person think that your house is probably not worth getting into. One of the things you don't want to do is you don't want a gun battle on your front door. Okay. So the further you can keep those people away from you, the better off. So, you know, those quarantine signs are going to be fantastic. I have a couple of them that I'll be putting up here. And so, you know, we're just going to do what we can do, throw stuff out in the yard, you know, empty cans, full cans, whatever, and just try to keep people away from the front door. Then how do we detect them? So, you know, you're going to have some detection systems. There are some outstanding tripwire systems. Be very, very cautious of those pre-SHTF. Also be very cautious of them post-SHTF, because remember, if you don't set them right, then an animal can set them off, a child can set them off, all kinds of different things. So make sure that you look into good tripwire alarm systems. We have whole house solar electricity with battery backup here. So I will be able to run my cameras, I'm hoping. And so we've got 360-degree coverage with cameras. I will tell you, and it may even happen while we're here tonight, sometimes something may step into the field of view of one of those motion detection systems and set off an alarm. And, you know, you can go sometimes and it'll just beep all night long, and that can drive you crazy as well. So, but check into that. Hello, Marie 2024. I would say work with your neighbors, create a community perimeter. So what can you do with your neighbors so that you're not sequestering just your home, but you're sequestering your neighborhood? How can you keep people out of the entire neighborhood? And, you know, in A. American's books, in his survivalist series, they have natural fencing and hedges and everything else around their little community. Then they have a barrier entry post at their road where people are going to come in, and then they put up some gambions. Now, a gambion, basically you take chicken wire and draw a circle, then you fill it up with rocks and sand, and that becomes an obstacle. It becomes something you can hide behind. it becomes something that you can't move, that they can't crash into. It becomes a deterrent to them moving a vehicle in. They have to go around the little loop-to-loop and stuff like that. So those are different things you can do to deter for a neighborhood, which is far more effective than deterring for a house. And then defending. So, it talks about in defending, what are some of the things that you can do, especially removing access, having people you trust close by. Some of the things I'm going to recommend are a little bit beyond firearms, okay? I would like to recommend, if you can, there are knife fighting courses out there that are held by different martial arts people. You can study that. There's also tomahawk fighting classes that I would strongly recommend that you look into. There's Eskrima and Kali. Now, Eskrima and Kali are both stick fighting courses. Eskrima is the stick fighting course that is taught basically in the Philippines, and then Kali is the one that's taught in Japan. But you've got maybe, think of it as a walking stick, maybe a little bit shorter. And then later on, they took the Kali and they cut it in half and joined the two pieces together. It's a short piece of chain, and that became nunchucks. And so, those are very lethal weapons that can be used, that you might want to study, that don't look that obvious, So with Kali and Eskrima, you could have a walking stick, and that could become your primary thing. There's also something called cane fighting, okay? And since I walk with a cane, it's natural for me. So this is my medical walking cane, okay? But if you take a look at the horn, okay, I can't spin this. I can't get my hand inside here to spin it. So, I'm very limited to where basically grabbing it on the shaft and using it that way. But then if you get a fighting cane, you notice that the horn is a lot bigger, and you can move your hand, you can spin it, you can grab it, you can maneuver it very well. So there's fantastic cane fighting classes out there. I found at least 5 different ones that I follow regularly on YouTube. And so you can look into those. And that would be something great for you to study as well, especially if you're like I am and you walk with a cane. You've already got it there. So why not go ahead and expand into something that you can use as a defensive tool? So Triple G Farm says he's not going to get knifed, and so the secret to that, I'm going to interpret, and let's see how good. Let me close this window. See, when you have bad hips, you have these magic reacher things too, and so you can close windows. You can close. There we go. You can close the blinds without having to move too much. But let me guess. So Triple G Farms is of the opinion, don't let them get within knife fighting range. And that brings us to our next topic. And so they recommend a couple things. And he primarily in the book focuses on recommending pistols. I'm a soldier, 21 years in the Army. And so the only reason we have a pistol is to get back to our rifle. So the pistol is last resort. And it's a great defensive tool inside the home. I will tell you that when I was teaching at Goodfellow Air Force Base, yes, Goodfellow is an all-service. It has been since 1970 when I was there as a student the first time. It's an all-service school, so all of the intelligence workers get trained there. And then I was back there as an instructor from 1980 to 1984, and I had an apartment on Bryant Avenue, the main road, and so it just so happens one of the other Russian instructors there got me that apartment. They were hard to come by. And the lady down at the end was a lady who worked primarily in the evenings. And so she would have customers coming in and out, and they were quite often intoxicated. We had these recessed windows, and that was the only window on the front of the apartment. And this guy was walking down. He lost his balance. He was very intoxicated, came through the window into my living room, and I jumped up and I had a revolver and 57 and I pointed in his face, and that guy ran like you would not believe. I'm sure he had a lot of stuff to clean up inside his pants when he got done, but he definitely ran. So that is, inside a very small, contained area, like a home, inside your home, inside an apartment, the pistol is great. There's also, you can get 12 gauge shotguns, and a company named Byrna, Byrnha, makes, if you're into it, makes a non-lethal round. It's basically a flechette, but it's a large dart, basically with a rubberized cup on the end of it, and it's subsonic. So basically, there's no powder in the round. You're using just the primer as a propellant, and so it can go and knock somebody pretty heavy. They know they've been hit, but it won't kill them. Let me see. Here we are here. That would be fantastic. I would love to find it. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Great suggestion. The quarantine tape. That would be phenomenal. Absolutely. I don't want to be cut either. I think that would be one of the worst ways to go. And I have studied using a tomahawk, and I think that would be a terrible way to go as well, just because how devastating it is. Which is why we're talking about firearms. That's probably what you want to have. There are a lot of people, and Steve Smith, I don't know, his channel is Integrative Preparedness. He prefers 40 caliber over 9mm. I understand why. 9mm, the NATO standard round. I've heard of people getting hit 9 times and still walking away with a 9mm ball ammunition. So if you're going to get 9mm, make sure you get an expanding shell, a hollow point or something like that. 40 caliber is going to have a little bit more devastating effect. I personally prefer 45. So, now my concealed carry is a 9mm. That's a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. And then my primary carry is a Glock 21 45 caliber. So, and I just, in the Army, I grew up with an M1911, so had a 45 caliber as a backup to my M16. When we get into rifles, I think you should have a couple. I think you should have several. I think you should have a small bore for squirrels and other small things. Now, that could be either a .177 or a .223. I'm sorry, .22. Gosh, what is it? I think maybe it is .223. Pellet gun, a high-powered pellet gun is phenomenal for small game. 22 caliber long rifle is phenomenal for small game. I would recommend either a 20 gauge or a 12 gauge. I'm getting to the point now where I love my 20 gauge more than I do my 12 gauge, only because 70-year-old shoulders can't absorb a 12 gauge like they can a 20 gauge. I would recommend that you have some sort of a hunting rifle. I have a tendency to prefer 308. That's what I've always had. And I love 30-30. My cousin let me use his 30-30 quite often when we went hunting, and that's a great rifle. I just absolutely love it for hunting. I don't think I would go up to a 30-06. I want to try the 6.5 Creedmoor. I understand that is a phenomenal round that has very little drop. It's probably one of the flattest trajectories of all the rounds out there for hunting. So get a good, decent hunting rifle. And I recommend that it be bolt action. They're a little bit more precise. Although I have heard that Henry Arms is manufacturing a lot of different calibers in their lever action rifles, what they call Henry Long Rangers, not Lone Rangers, but Long Rangers. And they've got like the Long Ranger in 308. They've got the Long Ranger in 5.56, the NATO caliber round. They've got it in 6.5 Creedmoor. They've got it in 7mm and 270. So they have a wide variety of calibers. But get yourself a good hunting rifle. You get yourself a good shotgun. And if given a choice between a short barrel and a long barrel, I would prefer the long barrel. You can use that for ducks, for dove, for birds. You can also use it for turkeys and everything else. Now, if you exclusively want to use it for riot gun or for a self-defense weapon, then you're probably going to want the shorter barrel. And you're probably going to load up more with double-aught and triple-aught buckshot than you are with anything else. Now, for a home defense tool, if you want to be less than lethal, then you can probably do the same thing and fill it with something like number 9 or number 7 shot, and that probably it's going to be that's going to be rather painful, but that probably might be survivable. So David Lynn is talking about the staff, which is in Japanese, it's called bo. So when you say bow staff, that's actually being redundant because bow means staff. So you're saying staff or bow. Not boo-boo, but bo. Kind of the same thing with chai. Chai is, in most Asian languages, the word for tea. So when you say chai tea, you're saying tea or chai. But anyhow, so yes, bow is a fantastic martial art as well. And that would be a fantastic walking stick. So if you're going to be walking along and need a walking stick, that would be fantastic. So the Korean short staffs are the equivalent to a scriba or kali. So, and then I would probably have some sort of battle rifle. And your battle rifle is going to be probably something in the NATO calibers. And so the NATO calibers are going to be 5.56, 308. So that could be either the Springfield M1, which is really an M14. They're just calling it an M1 because it doesn't have an M14 selector switch. But that's a 308 caliber wooden rifle based off of the M14. And it's got a magazine that can hold 20 rounds. And so that's a very good weapon. I wish I was eyeing one. There was an S1A at Guns Plus. I was eyeing that thing. I was saving my money for it. It was $1,300. And then the cough hit and everybody got scared and everybody bought stuff and bang, that thing was gone. Didn't see one. I haven't seen one since. I would love to have an M1A, but I have bolt action 308s, so I don't have a semi-auto 308. For the 223 5.56, the 5.56 AR-15 style rifle, Ruger makes one called the AR 5.56, and that's just 5.56 standing for the 5.56 millimeter. It's from everything I understand, that's a fantastic little gun, starter gun. You can add all kinds of things onto it to make it into a good weapon as far as a battle weapon or defensive weapon. Lights, bipods. I was at a friend's house Saturday and he showed me his, and I mean he had it really tricked out, and he had a Ruger AR 5.56. Ruger also makes the Mini 14, which is not 5.56, but it's 223. Now, 223 is the civilian equivalent of a 5.56. So there's not as high a chamber pressure. So the Mini 14, you might get by with firing one magazine full of 5.56, but at some point you're going to have problems because it's going to start weakening your head pressure and your bolt and everything else because the 5.56 is a higher pressure weapon than is the 223. So you can use 223 in a 5.56, but you cannot use 5.56 in a 223 as a general rule. The opposite for 308 and 7.62. So the civilian 308.308 caliber is a higher pressure round than is the 7.62 millimeter standard NATO. So you can put a 7.62 into a 308, but try not to put a 308 into a 7.62. So that's just kind of those generic thoughts around self-defense guns. I am also kind of enamored recently. One of the biggest regrets that I've ever had, I had an Uzi carbine, a 9mm Uzi carbine, and I turned it in back under the Clinton era when they outlawed it was one of the designated, quote, assault weapons. And I turned it in, and stupid me, I should have. Oh, that was the sweetest weapon I've ever owned in my life. But I understand, is it Ruger? Yeah, Ruger PC. PCC, pistol caliber carbine, is a 9mm carbine, and it accepts one of the Ruger 9mm pistol magazines, and it also has an adapter where if you're a Glock 19 fan, it will accept the Glock 19 magazine. The only Glock I have is the 21, which is a 45 caliber. But anyhow, that's kind of where we are as far as if you're looking at a self-defense weapon, then that's kind of where I would go with that. Let me check the conversations here, and gosh, a whole bunch since the last one I saw. Hello, Ban Everything. Welcome. So David Lynn says 308 AR-10. Yes, I would love to have an AR-10. A friend has one. It's heavy. It's awful heavy for a 70-year-old, but I think if I had a bipod on it and I was in a sniper position, that would probably be one of my rounds of choice for a combination long-range battle type weapon. That would be, I would love to have one. So if you have one, I am extremely jealous. No, here's Lee's thoughts. So on ethics, I am going to do whatever it takes for my family to survive. Okay. My family, my life, and my family's life is paramount. And protecting those members of my group is paramount. So anything I can do to save the life of a member of my group, a member of my family, or to save me is fair in love and war. Okay, that's just my ethical. Now, I don't want to torture anybody or anything like that, but I also want to make sure that my deterrences are effective so that nobody in my family or my group gets injured because of my carelessness. Let me see. I missed something. Huh. I did not know that, David Lynn. Thank you for sharing that. I assumed that they were tube fed just like the rest of them. So thank you for sharing that. I guess I'll have to go take a look at them. Let me see. We haven't had a day without rain now for 7 or 8 days. It's rained every single day. And so I do all of my cane exercises and all my martial arts out in the backyard. And I have not been able to exercise out in the backyard for the last 7 or 8 days. And that's kind of something. So yes, a 357 revolver, like the Ruger Security 6 with 38 plus hollow point ammo is good. So remember that the 357 will take either 357, 38 special, or 38 plus. All three of those rounds will fit into a 357. I love revolvers. There's not very much that can go wrong with them. And if you get speed loaders, and I have a couple speed loaders, one of my speed loaders is another thing about 38 plus is CCI makes snake shot for 38 plus. And so you can get snake shot, which basically turns your revolver into a shotgun. And I think that's kind of neat. Well, that's what I carry when I go to my brother-in-law's ranch, although I won't be going anymore. He passed away a month ago. So I probably won't be going up there anymore. But yeah, I carried a 357 with snake shot in it. Oh, 3 rounds, 3 chambers of snake shot. I haven't done that in a long time. I'm just getting too old for that stuff. Hello, Rome the Gentleman. Welcome. S.J. Mullen, welcome. Nostradamus. I love that. Welcome. Let me see who else here. Ban everything. It's illegal, but I've successfully hunted ducks on creeks and even got a goose and a strange coyote that approached me with a Benjamin 22 caliber pump air rifle. Deadly accurate at long range. Good. I am looking for a pump air rifle, or I'm looking for a good air rifle. Period. I've really been enamored with getting a good one, and especially one that would accept both pellets and BBs, and I guess that would be a 22 caliber. So I'm jealous, but yeah, I'll have to write that down. That's Benjamin, right? Yeah, Benjamin. Okay, let me write that down. I'll check. I'll look into that. Thank you for that recommendation. Okay, Dragon Slayer says, "Don't fall asleep in the sun if the red ants don't get you. The flying ones will." God, yeah, and then there's not the red ants, but what do we have here? Are the army ant? Not army ants. I forget what we have here, but God, they're oh man, you got to put Clorox on the minute you get bit, and then it'll fester up. You'll have a pimple like you would not believe, and it's something else. But Triple G Farms has an M4. Oh, you would love an M14. So would I. So would I, especially with the selector switch. Um, really? Hey, Duso Linvictus. Okay, welcome. So let me see here. Where else are we? I attended our gardens. I defend our gardens from rabbits with a Benjamin. Oh wow. Yeah, so I think that the smaller calibers. I'm still just emotionally just. I am so happy. Gosh, for those of you who don't know, earlier this evening, I mentioned the fact that this morning at our men's prayer group, I took these cards. Do I have it? Yeah, here they are. I took these to my men's group, and I said, there is a group, there's a Catholic charity here in the North Williamson County, let's put it that way, Williamson County, Texas. And they have for 9 years been providing free medical care and dental care to the employed who are underinsured health-wise and dental-wise. And so it says right here, you can sponsor a patient for a year for $25 a month or a $300 one-time donation. And so I figured that since there's 12 of us in the group, we could get together and 11 guys would put in 2, and then I'd put in 3, and that'd be $25. We'd sponsor one person for a year. And while I was sitting there talking to them, 3 of them took this QR code and went directly to the QR code and went ahead and sponsored a person all by themselves. And so I was just emotionally just so elated that something that good would happen that early. And I was mentioning that earlier today. And so Triple G Farms gave a donation to sponsor a person. And gosh, just anything we can do to help our fellow man, especially, things are going to get tough. And so at St. Vincent de Paul, which is the Catholic charity group that I belong to, I talked to our deacon last week, and I said, what are we going to do? If the shit hits the fan, and if the economy goes to pot, if we lose electricity or anything else, there are going to be people who have not prepared for the inevitable. What's going to happen as far as lack of food? We already know there's going to be food shortages coming starting in the summer, late summer. Beef, rice, sugar, flour. You name it. There's so many different things. Sunflower seed oil. There's so many different shortages. It's pitiful. Cacao from Brazil and South America, chocolate. So there's so much happening. And what are we going to do to feed our fellow man? They said, well, we've never thought about it, but you know what? There's 2 organizations that are responsible for that, the Knights of Columbus or the St. Vincent de Paul. Well, I'm in St. Vincent de Paul. So it just so happened the next day we had a visitation with a neighbor in need, and I went with the president of our local chapter. I said, what are we going to do? And he says, don't know, but we have our annual retreat this coming Saturday, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a half hour to talk about it on the schedule. So this coming Saturday, I have to give a half-hour presentation on my suggestion on what we're going to do to help feed our fellow man if it comes to the point where we have to have bread lines or soup kitchens or whatever. So, gosh, I'm just, everything is working out this week. Things are just turning out so well that we are taking care of our fellow man. It's just got me emotionally just Oh, I'm so excited. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight. I'll have to take a sleeping pill, I think. How about an SKS? What I don't like, I'm going to say yes, outstanding, fantastic, phenomenal, superior for a hunting rifle. I would not recommend an SKS for a self-defense weapon only because it's bolt action. And if you have the opportunity to get something that is a little bit faster operating than a bolt action, if you can get a semi-automatic, I would prefer you have a semi-automatic. If you can't, then a bolt action is going to have to do. The same thing with a lever action. I think that I have a lever action 22. I have two 22 caliber rifles. I have a Ruger 1022 and I have a Henry 22 lever action 22. I love just shooting the Henry. It makes me feel like a cowboy, But so either one of those two, pump action, lever action, semi-automatic, SKS. Another problem you have to remember with the SKS is, and I made a fool of myself. I made some predictions 5 years ago, and I was totally wrong. So I could be totally wrong on this one too. So bear with me for my reasoning. I told people that if I had a choice between an AR platform and a hunting platform, I would take the hunting platform because during times of austerity, there will be all kinds of hunting ammunition available, and all the NATO military calibers will go to the military. The cough lockdown proved me totally wrong. I went 3 years without finding any 30-30 ammo. It just could not be found. And so most of the common hunting calibers were not being made, whereas the NATO calibers were being made and were available. Even though they were rationed, they were available. So I was totally wrong there. But I'm going to say, that basically SKS, a Soviet, well, let's call it a Russian or European model 7.62, Kurtz short 39. That ammunition is going to be a little bit harder to find than would say a 308 or a 7.62 long. Just my opinion, but that would be my rationale behind that. So, as long as you stock up plenty of ammunition, then SKS is fine. If you're willing to deal with defending yourself with a bolt action. Remember, anything you do, and I like the idea, but anything you do, you have to be cautious because it can be used against you. So remember those Gambians I told you about in the Survivalist series by A. American? Those, as long as you're behind them and they're way out there, they're your protection. If they get up close and they get to those Gambians and all of a sudden you have to retreat, now it's their protection. Anything that is defensive in nature for you can be turned against you at some point. So just you have to understand that you have to plan your defenses so that if you think back, one of the best things I can tell you is think back to the John Wayne movie, The Green Berets. And you remember that the Vietnamese commander of the base that they were at had his little dial a bomb, and he had all of his machine gun and mortar emplacements set up with C4, so that when the Viet Cong overran the position and grabbed those weapons to use against his people, he blew up the entire position. So he was planned in advance that there was a possibility that either traitors within his own organization or an overrun could happen, and that those defensive positions could be used against him. So he made provisions to turn those defensive positions into nothingness so that they couldn't be used against him. Grateful Preps, New Jersey, thank you. I try to be. Just remember what St. Francis says, that the way you live sometimes is the only Bible that other people will ever see. So that's kind of the philosophy that I try to take. Rome the Gentleman, thank you. We're going to continue on reading this book, and it's 9:03 already. Next week, the two chapters that we're going to be discussing are going to be energy and hygiene. Hygiene is one of those areas I have a special affinity for, simply because I'm so afraid of it. When we had the Brushy Creek mud, gosh, I think it was 96, 97. We had lightning strike so what happened was we had a septic collection system, and then we had an electric pump that pumped it uphill, and then it gravity fed down into the city of Austin sanitation system. And so lightning hit that electric pump. So all of that sewage backed up into Brushy Creek. Well, 100 yards upstream was where the wellhead was that sucked the water in for our drinking water. And we didn't realize it, but there was a fracture in the karst, in the rock structure underneath Brushy Creek, that deflected the raw sewage directly in a straight line down to our wellhead. And so we were basically drinking raw sewage, and I had a family member who was the first confirmed case of cryptosporidiosis. So ever since then, I've had this thing about I am going to make sure that my family is protected against what we saw happen at the Superdome in New Orleans, when the toilets were backing up and the restrooms were filling up with fecal matter and urine and everything else, and the terrible contagious diseases that occurred there. So that's basically what I want to avoid. And so that's how I really got into sanitation. It looks like David Lynn has some experience with uh, martial arts, and then he has a Lady Smith with cherry grips. All right. Um, Ban everything. Yes, let me tell you, driveway alarms are fantastic. Trail cams are fantastic as long as you can get a live setup. The only thing I would ask you to do is make sure that you get it hooked up so that you're not dependent upon the internet or upon your cell phone. So as it is, my cell phone, I can call it up right now. Let me see here. I can call up on my cell phone. There it is. Ring. And so I can show you, there's my driveway, there's my front door. Okay, I've got a total of 8 cameras, but so I can turn lights on, I can turn on speakers and everything else, but that right now is internet dependent. So make sure you have a way, if the grid goes down, that number one, you can power them, number two, you can communicate with them other than through the grid. Thank you for that, Triple G Farms. So thumbs up, subscribing would be fantastic, phenomenal. Appreciate that. Yes, I love Remington 870s. That's what I have. That's what my pump is. And I've got a modified choke on it. And, so my experience with dove hunting is what I use for those of you who think you're going to hunt or fish and live that way and not grow your food or forage or be able to survive for a long time. Number one, everything's going to get fished and hunted out very quickly anyway. Number two, the example I use is it takes 3 dove to feed me a meal. So I have a family of 4. Okay. That means that for one meal, I need at least 12 dove. Okay. Let's assume I'm a perfect shot. I am a perfect shot and I get a dove every time I pull the trigger. That's 12 rounds a day. The migratory dove season here in Texas lasts 3 weeks one period and up to 3 months the other. So let's just say that we can have migratory dove here for 3 months a year. And so now that's 90 days. So I've got to take 90 times 12. Okay. We're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 rounds if I'm a perfect shot to feed my family 1 meal a day for 3 months. I don't think it's going to be that good. Okay. So thank you for bringing up that subject kind of in an indirect way there, David Lynn. But yes, I think that the Mossberg 500 and the Remington 870 are probably 2 of the best pump shotguns made. And I have a Remington 870 12 gauge and I have a Mossberg 500 in 20 gauge. So, let me see here if there's anything else. So tomorrow night, if y'all care to join me, and I would greatly love it. Oh yeah, the British Enfield 303 is a spectacular rifle, sub-ohm. And by the way, welcome. I haven't seen you before. But tomorrow night, we're going to be discussing a little thing I put together here, which is 20 things that preppers should not do. And so here's my list of 20 things I've come up with. Just a couple of them. The two that I think are critical. Number one, don't give up. There are a lot of fatalists out there. Don't be one of them. You can make it if you get your mind straight. There are some people out there who are going to tell you all kinds of false stuff, especially about nuclear stuff. They don't know what they're talking about. They're going to scare you. It is survivable. Only 25% of the population of both Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the only two places that we've used that there have been nuclear attacks, only 25% of both of those populations were killed. And over the long term, including long-term radiation sickness and different things that happen, only 35% were fatal after a long duration. Okay, so that means that there's a 65% chance that even if you're in the immediate vicinity of a nuke going off, you're going to survive. Now, I will have to admit they've gotten a lot more powerful in that since then, but you can, if you study up on it, you can survive. So that's going to be one of the ones we're going to talk about. And the other one's going to be, don't go crazy with fear. Don't listen to the fear mongers. Okay. Start researching, start learning, start checking. What are your options? How can I survive this? What are some of the things that I can do? Who are the people that I can trust to tell me the truth about some of these things? Go to those people. I will tell you people that I trust and where I go for information. One of my favorite channels is Provident Prepper. And both of them are on the board of directors for the American Civil Defense Association. We call it TACDA. TACDA is a free organization you can join. So just tacda.org. It's free. Join. If you want to get a subscription to the semi-annual magazine that comes out, it's a phenomenal magazine. The most recent one that I received was talking about how to survive riots. So that just great. So that's one of the places I would recommend you go to, Provident Prepper, along with tacda.org. FEMA has a lot of good information out there. There's just a lot of good people out there with great survival information. Get the books, Stonemont series by Steve Smith. Now read it carefully. Pay attention to the survival stuff that he has put in there. There's a lot of great survival information inside that book. You just kind of have to get past the story and look at the survival instructions that he has. American, his books. Then we're going to be talking about this one, the last Thursday of the month. This is volume 6 of Engine Home. And the first time I read it, I went right past it, but he's got he says in here, he talks about the American Redoubt, and it's a group of ham radio operators that operate an emergency ham system. And so they put out the Partisan Operator Journals, and I ordered the book, and I joined their organization after I read, the tip in here. So a lot of times, if you get some of these real good fiction authors, they're going to have very good information on what you can do about surviving something that's just unbelievable. So that's kind of where we are. And gosh, thank you all. So what a wonderful evening this has been. Thank you. You've just made it so special. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you. Oh, look at this fantastic suggestion here. James Carroll says to put a ball valve in your sewage line to prevent backup from the city in case of SHTF. Great idea. You don't want it backing up. Let me see. Yeah, I've heard that goats are probably the best thing to have in an SHTF environment because of the regularity of their litters and everything else. So just a great thing to have. Goats, pigs, and chickens supposedly are the three things that you want to have if you're going to grow your own meats. So with that, we're going to go to the numbers and get my tab here. Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, and 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So do me a favor. Number one, tomorrow, wake up and just set a goal to do something nice to someone that they least expect. Let somebody into traffic that's been sitting there waiting for an opening. Let somebody pass that wants to go faster than you do. Just smile, pay for somebody's coffee. Just I watched a video yesterday. It was from an airline attendant. She says, that only 1 out of every 10 people who step on an airplane, they greet every single person who gets on the airplane, and only 1 out of every 10 ever responds and smiles back or says hello. Just do that. Tip your waiter if you go out to eat. Give them a nice tip if they're doing a good job for you. Those people are way underpaid, and they need our help, and they need our care, and they need our affection. So just do something nice to somebody tomorrow. Just do it because you want to be better than everybody else. And we need to make this world a better place. So please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. And we've got to get through this together. Take care, everybody. Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.